but the sort of populist rhetoric of the common man against the corrupt elite, that is hardwired into American, political culture. I mean, Richard Hofstadter pointed that out more than half a century ago. So I think that's one aspect. The other aspect that I think is interesting, a historian called Felipe Fernandez.
One believes and maybe hopes
he should be
a defeat in the midterms and
executed.
an expiration date in 2028.
Treason.
So the argument is maybe this is, if not a one-off, it certainly represents the
2028
tendencies
this
in
year.
American politics, just as racism and anti-Semitism represent persistent tendencies not only in the United States but elsewhere, that those are not going to go away. But it's possible that through electoral
Could at least take him out of power.
Submerge.
I think one of the ways which can measure the consequential character of an actor in world history is if they have an ism named after them and people talk about it seriously.
Right.
So there haven't been that many. I mean, there's Caesarism, Napoleonism, and it's interesting that all of them kind of involve a strong man.
Yeah, Trumpism is fascism.
A republican system.
But there's also something called liberalism, and do you think
There
that
absolutely is.
do you think that's been eradicated from American political culture?
No, I don't. So I am relatively sanguine about the prospect for American liberty. I think it had a very long innings and has done incredibly well for itself. And I think that there is, within the character and the myths of the American Republic, there is an inherent anxiety that the Republic will turn to autocracy, and that's because it was founded as a simulacrum of the early Roman Republic. And the lesson of Roman history is that
Turn to an autocracy this time.
a republic will become an autocracy. So people have been dreading the emergence of a Caesar since the Constitutional Convention. And when Benjamin Franklin came out and people said, what is it to be? He said, a republic if you can do this.
Yes, he always reminded us. Yes.
So right from the very, very beginning, this has been an anxiety, and yet people were anxious about it in the, with relation to Jackson, or to Lincoln, or to Roosevelt.
But hang on, is it not an anxiety in Britain as well? You have a kind of
Brexiteers.
relatively wealthy London,
Captured by Putin.
The rest of the economy in Britain more resembles Alabama than New York. These resentments, these changes in the media, again, it's not on the same scale as the United States in sheer population and military power, but do you not have the same anxieties about, call it Trumpism, of course, if you will, or Farageism?
Trumpism is a danger to everyone.
I don't agree with Tom about this at all. I think because the political culture in Britain is completely different.
You got your
racists.
racists.
Populism isn't a feature, of course.
You got
But political
Farage.
culture in Britain is quite different from the United States, I think, for two reasons. It's much less moralistic. So threats are not usually cast as a danger to the integrity of the Republic. You have changes of governments, and there's a little bit of overheated rhetoric. The newspapers get excited, but by and large, we rub along pretty well. The other big thing, I think, in Britain, and the difference that the United States has actually with Europe in general, is the United States has only two parties. There are us, there's the good people, and there are the other people who are
What do
evil.
you guys have in Britain?
And in
Labour and the
now in
Tories or
Britain, by
something?
definition, we've always had even at the point at where the two parties, the Conservatives, Labour at their strongest,
You got Labour
there
and
were
what?
still other parties. There were still a few Liberal MPs, and of course now in Britain we have effectively a multi-party system. So it's very hard to cast your opponents as a terrifying danger to the threat
How did
and
you get
survival
Brexit?
of the nation state itself.
How did you
when there
fall
are
for
so many
Putin's plan for
shades of
Brexit
grey,
in the
as it
same
were,
way
and
we
there's
fell
so
for
many
Putin's
shades of
plan for
nuance.
Trump?
So in that sense,
I
I think
don't think you
Britain is
can claim to be
much
that
closer to European
You
democracy
did
than the
Brexit.
United
Putin
States.
and Cambridge
Gentlemen,
Analytica and
I can't
Facebook's
be sitting
plan.
here with two British
did it.
historians and not ask about the state.
You went through with it.
Well, the monarchy. Is it just about done, or are you just having a low period in the history of the monarchy in many ways, and it will revive itself?
Why do you assume it's a low period? I'm interested. I'm intrigued why you think.
Why do you act like
monarchy
Britain's
is
somehow
doing
better
fine.
than
Yeah.
America when you guys
you
did
do.
Brexit
I
or
didn't ask about
Putin?
constitutional monarchy. I'm as systemic, but the
Like,
royal
you were
family
just susceptible
seems
to
to stay the same.
fascism.
I think
Just came out as Brexit
to
for
the
you
degree
guys.
that I disagree with Dominic. I think that Britain and America do still remain shaped by that common legacy from the 18th and 17th centuries. And both our histories are marked by the tension between what, of course, in the civil wars were parliamentarians who ended up chopping the head of the king, and then also decided that actually we'll have the monarchy back. And so the sense that you can have a degree of monarchy and have a very thriving democratic system as it emerges, I think is something that is shared by both America and Britain in its own ways. America, I think, demonstrates that it's perfectly possible to have a monarchy and a republican system. And in a way, Britain does as well. And it's often said that America is a monarchy pretending to be a republic, and Britain is a republic pretending to be a monarchy. And I think that there is an element of truth about that. And I think that the legacy of the centuries that have preceded this current moment, I think should give us an element of reassurance, and perhaps also should make us ponder, are we not being very arrogant in assuming that we uniquely live at the end point, the end of days? There's a kind of fulfillment in feeling that we are witnessing the end of a great and ancient story. I don't think we are. And maybe I'm being Pollyanna-ish about it, but I think that,
Check this out.
Adam Smith said, there is a lot of ruin in a nation. And I don't think neither of us are remotely near that.
David, I'm puzzled by your question. The implication is that the monarchy is in an unprecedented state or a low point. But
The monarchy's been in really low
republicanism
points
in Britain
before.
is very much a minority pursuit. It's an enthusiasm for kind of political hobbyists, who by definition are not representative of the great mass of people. Of course, there's the scandal about the former Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, for example.
Right.
But
Well, Putin
I mean, the
and
one
Jeffrey
thing that has
Epstein
always been a feature
and the
of
Mossad got to
monarchy
everybody, didn't
has
they?
been terrible sex scandals, sort of soap opera style shenanigans,
Tiny
and
little
terrible
bunny.
secrets, skeletons in closets, and so on. And this is absolutely standard. This is not a bug. This is a feature.
Oh, I agree, but it doesn't have the contemporary media accelerative aspects that you have now.
No, it
feature.
doesn't, but in a world in which the contemporary media is accelerating every story, this is just one story among many.
Go
So it doesn't stick, you're saying?
No, and for the monarchy to change, for the change to the system, just think about how this would work. I mean, people always talk about this very airily. Oh, there could be a change. They could get rid of the monarchy. People aren't interested anymore. What it would require would be for an elected government to decide that it wanted to spend its 5-year mandate on an extremely controversial referendum,
An unpopular one.
that was an unpopular one, that all the indicators show that they would lose in changing to a republic. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a majority in the history of opinion polling for changing to a republic. So that would have to be a Labour government. In doing so, even if they won, they would immediately shed a large proportion of their own heartland constituency. That is to say, working class, small c conservative, patriotic, monarchist Labour supporters. Would any Labour government take that risk? It's unthinkable, I would say.
I mean, I would say the only, perhaps,
You've got so many parties. What if one of the other parties
possibility
does
is
it?
that the United Kingdom breaks up. There is a kind of greater strain of republicanism, I would say, in Scotland or in Wales. I mean, let alone in Northern Ireland. So that is one possibility. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen either, because I think the appeal of the status quo in times of trouble is always immense.
It kicks in.
And I think that the very, the kind of the very predatory nature of contemporary media culture actually can work in the monarchy's favour. So, of course, Prince Andrew, being arrested, absolutely shocking news. Lots and lots of articles saying this is the end of the monarchy. And then I think within literally
Fun
a
thing to
month,
talk about, I guess.
King Charles was visiting Washington and delivering a speech, and it was like, why can't we have the king back? He's tremendous. He's much better than Donald Trump. And Prince Andrew was forgotten.
That is true.
So
That is true.
So
Except in the Daily Mail, maybe.
I think the
We haven't even forgotten. We haven't moved on from the Epstein files.
As well as against.
No matter how much
Let
you
me
want
ask
to
you
try
a
to strive
kind
to.
of business cultural question. There was recently an article about the
You want to
decline
try to
of
make us
dad
move on from the
books.
Epstein
Dad books
files.
in American parlance they're usually tomes about modern history, biographies of Mountbatten, as it were, or King so-and-so, or President so-and-so. And it seems that you are among the guilty. One of the things that's cutting into the reading time of dads everywhere
Podcasts.
is podcasts.
You can still decide to read or listen to
Like the rest is
podcasts.
history.
I would say not guilty.
Sometimes people
My sense
hear things on
from what
podcasts that makes them want to read a book.
friends who write dad books tell me is that if we mention a dad on the
Exactly.
list of history, the sales
It makes a
that
lot of money.
go up. So I
What the
I
truck?
hope that we are helping people to go into bookshops and
Check out the
buy,
Church of
these
Judas in my book, The Little Book of
huge
Judas.
volumes on. I take an example, the early Roman Empire.
Check out The Little
I mean,
Book
that'd
of
be one
Judas
thing.
by Andrew Harris.
Well, I don't agree
It's
with
called
Tom
The
on this.
Little Book of Judas by
I think
Andrew
we're clearly
Harris.
responsible. And I
Thanks.
think the reason for that is there is a move generally away from literary culture. So you see the sales of books generally in decline.
Yeah, we call people
reading
who are
in decline.
literate
And the reason for
autistic
that
now.
is so many people say, well, actually, I wanted to find out about the Spanish Civil War, but you know what? I'm going to spend an evening watching YouTube clips about it. I'm going to listen to a podcast when once I would have picked a book by Hugh Thomas or Paul Preston. And I think it would be mad for us to deny that's happening. I mean, there is a move towards a much more visual, digital culture, frankly.
I would deny
People
that.
also listen to
You would
audiobooks.
disagree, Tom.
Again, I haven't looked at the stats on this, so obviously there are people watching us on YouTube. But I think the vast majority of people are listening to podcasts while they're driving, or they're on the walk, they're going to work, or whatever. It's something that is in addition to the time that you might have to read book.
I hope you're right. You're right, because I think there's a lot of room in the
You want
world to
people to
listen
read.
to The Rest is History, which I take great pleasure in.
If you want people to
As well
read
as
better
reading,
books,
reading,
read
reading.
more books, have
Gentlemen,
better
thank
books.
you.
and
Thank you so
promote
much
better
for having
books.
us.
And sort of.
Thank you, and to you, David.
All the very best.
Thank you.
That was a good interview. Good job, New York Times Radio
Dominic
Hour.
Sandbrook,
New Yorker.
Tom Holland. of
New
The
Yorker
Rest is
Radio
History.
Hour.
I'm David Remnick, and to stay on the theme of the 250th, a few weeks ago, the great historian Jill Lepore, staff writers, hosted an episode of the Radio Hour all about this moment in America and what it means.
Happy birthday,
I've talked to a lot
America.
of people lately who say it's a hard time to be out in public, running for office, engaging in any kind of political discussion. In the neighborhood, figure out what our neighborhood used to do for July 4th and write July 4th speeches in our 5th grade classroom. The idea